In today's tutorial, we will learn how to use the XRMesh as a physics collider in the Immersive Web SDK. And before we start, a quick bit of unashamed self-promotion. If you enjoy these kinds of tutorials and want more of them, consider becoming a member for the channel as a spatial builder. You get early access to the tutorials and you'll help me dedicate more time to creating new learning content for you. So here we are in a pretty much new Immersive Web SDK project, and all I did was clean up a little bit in the index file, so we only have the code that's absolutely necessary to get started. And if you want to know how to set up a new project, you can watch the first tutorial of this series. So the first thing that we want to do here is remove the plane detection, as we don't need it for this tutorial, and everything else we want to leave here to true. One thing that we want to do down below here in our grabbing is activate a feature, which is the use hand pinch for grab. And we want to set that to true, and that will make testing a little bit easier, as we don't need to do a grab with our hand, but we can just do a pinch to later on move the spawn position. So then what we want to do first of all is actually go into the scene understanding feature, and here we want to toggle the show wireframe to true, and this will actually allow us to see what the mesh actually is. So the AR scene mesh, what is that about? And in order to see that, we can simply go into the simulator by down below here in the terminal entering npm run dev, and then the XR simulator is opening up in Chrome, and we can click on enter XR, and now we can already see that this is pretty much the AR mesh that we have here. So a representation of the real world within a mesh. And we can do the same thing on our headset, so we can go to the same IP address that is shown up here in the terminal, which here in my case is this one. And we can enter that one into our XR headset, and we can also see that we have the representation of the mesh. Of course, for example, when you have a quest, you need to have done the scene setup first, which usually the quest triggers by itself. So the next part that we want to do is we want to create a system that will add a physics collider to our mesh. Because right now, if we would put an object in our scene and would add physics to it, it would simply fall down through the ground. And this is what we don't want. So in our source folder, let's create a new subfolder, and let's call this one systems. And here we will create a new file, and this one we will call mesh collider system. And it's going to be a TypeScript file. So what we want to do here is create a new system by first of all creating a new class. So let's say export class, and then we want to call this mesh collider system. And this one will extend create system. And this is already auto exporting here, importing here at the top, which is quite nice. And then we want to quickly set up the syntax here like this. And then we want to begin by setting up a query. And if you want to learn more about queries and how that ECS system works, you can also watch some of the other tutorials of this series where I explain this in a bit more detail. But we want to create a new query, which we want to call meshes. And this one will have a required component. So required will be all the entities that have the XRMesh component, which is essentially our mesh. And we still need to, of course, import that, I guess. Here at the top, it's not going to auto-import, so XRMesh from the core. And then what we want to do is we want to exclude physics bodies in order to make sure that we'll only target the XRMesh objects that don't have a physics body yet as a component attached. So then let's go into the init method here, or let's create a init method, which is more or less like a start method if you're coming from Unity. And we want to tap into a query. So we want to say this queries and meshes, and we want to subscribe. So if essentially we qualify for this query, we want to take the entity, and then what we want to do here is we want to go to the entity and add component. We want to add component. We want to put the physics shape as a component. And then we want to say shape, which will be the, essentially the tri-mesh. So physics shape type dot. And we can already see some suggestions here. We have auto, we have box, capsule. So this is essentially the shape that is going to be created around the object. But as we have a complex mesh object here, we want to take the try mesh, which will make it more accurate than simply drawing a box, for example. And we want to also define the friction. So this will define, again, the friction on if the objects would slide on the ground, and we want a little bit of sliding, but not too much. And then we want to also say entity add component. And here we want to add the physics body. And then we want to say the state is static. Like this. All right, so this way we have added to our XRMesh a physics shape, which is not enough to essentially then actually collide or have a physics collision event with other objects, but we also have the physics body, which will allow then to have a collision event of the shape of our physics shape with another object that also has physics attached. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to essentially set a global variable, if you want to say. So we have the globals, and this is, well, let's say it's not necessarily the best practice, but it's also not the worst practice. If you do have a small application, we essentially set now something like a global variable, which will tell then that the mesh collision or mesh collider, let's actually fix that here. The mesh collider, global mesh collider is ready. And setting this global variable, we could name this anything essentially, will be able to be retrieved from any other system that we have in the app. And here we can first of all check whether the physics system for the XRMesh is actually ready, right? So what this system here will do in the end is it has the query of all the XRMeshes. So there's a list essentially that will be populated with all the XRMeshes on the application start, which will be derived from our room setup and the meshes that we just saw in the simulator or in the headset. And then we will subscribe to this list. So for each XRMesh that is going to be added to the list, we will essentially add the physics shape and physics body component, and then we will set that the mesh collider is ready. So then back in the index.ts, what we need to do here is we need to register the system, and we want to do world.register system. And here we want to, of course, then take the mesh collider system. So mesh collider system, and this will be hopefully auto imported here at the top. And very important, we want to set the priority to 0. So the lower the priority, the higher it is actually. And we need to set that because we want to have all of our XRMeshes only added to the list when this system is already registered. Because if we register this system after the XRMeshes have already been created, this query is not going to fire, because this will only fire as we subscribe to this list when something newly is added, not for the things that have been added later on. Of course, there would be ways to go through this, setting a update method or setting some interval where we scan every second once. But to make it a lot easier for us now in this tutorial, what we rather want to do is we want to first register the system, and after that only register the XRMesh, which will then make it a lot easier. All right, so then next up we can go ahead and do our objects that are supposed to collide with the world mesh. And what we want to start with is creating a spawn position or a spawn object. And for that, let's create quickly a new function here, which we want to call create spawn position. And we want to put in here a world of type world, because we need that finally to register the component or the transform entity. And here we want to, for example, call the a new variable. We were going to call this the spawn object, and this one will be a new mesh. And we want to create a new mesh of type sphere geometry, and we want to set this one to a radius of 0.12, like this. And then we want to set a new material, so new mesh basic material. It's already kind of showing here some suggestions. So color could be something like green. So let's set this one to something like 44FF88, which is green. And then we want to set the opacity to 1. I think this is already set by default, so this might be unnecessary, but never mind. And then of course we want to close the bracket here. And then of course we still need to import mesh here, and that will probably also be at the IWSDK core, like this. So this will go away. I think there's something with the brackets here, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I think there's a bracket missing. All right. And then we want to go ahead and set the spawn object .name. Can set this one to spawn position. And then we want to set the positions. So spawn object .position .set. And we can set this to, in this case, 1.5 and then something like -1. So this will be put a bit upwards and then a bit backwards so we can see it well on spawn. And then we want to create this. So we want to say spawn object entity. And this one will not use the world.createEntity, which we had suggested here, but we actually want to create transform entity. And we want to put in here a spawn object. So this way it will be registered actually in our real world and will not only be a visual object, but an actual entity inside of the Immersive Web SDK. And then what we want to do here is we can go ahead and take the spawn object entity. We want to add component. And then we want to add the component of the distance grabbable. And here we want to set the movement mode, which is quite interesting. This is something we haven't done already in the last tutorials. We want to set that to movement mode.move at source. And usually when you have the distance grabbable component attached, and you, for example, pinch or grab at the object, it will then automatically move towards the camera and towards your hand or controller, and will only end once it reaches. But if we have the move at source, it will actually stay at the exact distance, and it will only translate your movements to the object without actually getting automatically closer to your hand. And then we want to set rotate to false and scale to false, of course, because we only want the object to move, but not rotate and scale. If you want something different, that's fine as well. And finally, we want to return the spawn object entity, like this, in a way that we can actually store it in a variable. All right, so then up here in our method, what we want to do is we want to create our spawn position entity by calling the create spawn position with the world as an input. And then next up, we can go ahead and create a new cube geometry. And this will be our physics object that we will have falling from our spawn position. So we can call this one cube geometry. And we can create a new box geometry, and we want to set the width, height, and the depth to 0.15, like this. And then we also create, of course, a new material, so the new cube material. And we make a new basic material, but we maybe set this to a different color here. For example, the 37B5FF. Like this. And we want to set the variable to cube spawned. So cubes spawned, set this one to 0, as we don't want to spawn endless amount of cubes, but maybe we're just going to spawn 20, which will be enough. All right, so now we want to create a new kind of sub method here, which we call window.setInterval. So this is something that we can run every n milliseconds, which will need to spawn the cube. And here we want to again create our function inside of this set interval. And we want to first of all say that if the world.globals.mesh collider ready If this is not the case, so if this is undefined or false, but in our case undefined, then we want to return as obviously the collider system is not ready yet. And also if the cubes spawned, if this is greater than 20 or equal, then we want to return, as we don't want to have unlimited cubes spawning all the time. Otherwise, what we want to do is we want to create then a new cube, which will be a new mesh from our cube geometry and the cube material that we created. And what we can do next here is extract the position of our spawn position entity. So we can, for example, say the actual position that we want to spawn here is the spawn position entity. And here we can get the object 3D. We want to make sure that will actually or we want to assure to TypeScript that this will actually be a existing variable or existing attribute that we're getting here, and we can simply go ahead and take the position and we can clone this one like that. And then we can say cube.position.copy, and we want to copy here our position. And finally we can say cube.position.y minus equals 0.25, and this will ensure that this will spawn a little bit below our spawn sphere and not exactly on top of it. All right, so then we're just gonna need to call or create the cube entity. So we wanna do cube entity, which will be world.createTransformEntity, putting the cube in here. Then we of course wanna add our physics to it. So we wanna say cube entity.addComponent, and we wanna add the physics shape component here. And we wanna set the shape to physics shape type.box, and I think we'll need to import that first, so probably somewhere up here. Physics shape type, like this. Oops. Nice. And we want to set the dimension then to, I guess, 0.15. 0.15. And then we want to also to the cube entity add the component of the physics body, of course, and we want to set the state to physics state.dynamic. And I think we'll probably need to import those two. So let's quickly do that up here. So let's import the physics body and the physics state like that. And then finally, of course, we need to still define the interval here. Which will be then set, I guess, here. So we want to set that interval to 2000. And we also, of course, want to make sure that after the cube has spawned, we want to iterate on our cube spawned variable and add one to that. All right, so now let's save. And if we test this in the simulator, we should already be able to see this green cube here. Let's click on Enter XR, and we can see the cubes falling out of the sphere. We can touch the sphere and move it, and cubes will fall out of that one as well. And in this way, we do have actually our physics running, which is super, super nice. And of course, the same thing goes for the headset. If we put on the headset, we can also see the sphere, we can move it around. And in this way, we created our first physics interaction scene in WebXR, which is extremely nice, and you can be very proud of you. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope you learned something. I hope it was useful. Again, if you're interested in more of these tutorials, consider becoming a member of this YouTube channel. But that's it for today's tutorial. So as always, thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.